So this is the menstruation cycle. It's an average of 28 days long, and ovulation occurs around day 14. So from days 0 to 14, that's known as the follicular phase. And after, from day 14 to day 28, is known as the luteal phase. So before we go into this graph, I want to go over the ovarian cycle, which takes place within this phase. So what first occurs is that you have the primordial follicle stage. And these are just made up of oocytes surrounded by follicle cells. It's otherwise known as the egg nest. So what happens is a group of these is selected is selected, and it goes on to the primary follicle stage. Now in this stage, you have the development of the granulosa and the thecal cells. The granulosa cells, so this is the oocyte. You have the granulosa, which is inner. I'm going to write this down. Granulosa is the inner cells. It has receptors for FSH. And it also secretes progesterone. But this secretion becomes more prominent in the corpus luteum, which we'll get to. It also has thecal cells, which makes up the outer portion, the outer cells, and that has LH receptors, which becomes important during ovulation. So once the primary follicle stage occurs, keep in mind that what happens here is that the follicles, they grow in size and in number. So then before they go into the secondary follicle stage, a small number of these follicles are chosen. They go into the secondary follicle stage. So here you have the formation of fluid-filled sacs within the follicle cells. Then in the Graafian stage, or in the tertiary follicle stage, only one of these is selected. And what it does is it pushes up against the ovarian wall, and then enzymes are secreted to break down the wall just a little bit, enough for the oocyte to be released into the oviduct, and that portion is ovulation. So then what happens is now we're entering the luteal phase, is that the corpus, the rest of the leftover granulosa cells, they fall upon each other and they form the corpus luteum. Now the corpus luteum secretes progesterone and a bit of estrogen, which is used to maintain the endometrium. So then after a while, after the span of several days, the corpus luteum begins to break down into the corpus albicans. And okay, so after ovulation occurs, you have the formation of the corpus luteum. And after the corpus luteum, which, as I said earlier, secretes progesterone and a little bit of estrogen, after the span of several days, it begins to break down and form the corpus albican, until finally it disintegrates. So this is the follicular phase, and yeah, that's the ovarian cycle. So now we go into this graph, which shows the days of the menstrual cycle. We begin with the breaking down of the endometrium, and as you notice here, you have an increase in FSH and LH. FSH is follicle-stimulating hormone, which stimulates this to occur. So I'm gonna write in a different color. From here down is the follicle development. And then from here up, you have the development and the breaking down of the corpus luteum. So at around day 14, you have, before day 14, there's an LH surge, which stimulates ovulation to occur. So when this happens, that's because there's a high concentration of LH. Keep in mind that FSH and LH are secreted by the anterior pituitary gland, and you have the receptors. So you have those hormones that bind to the receptors in the granulosa cells and in the thecal cells. So then after day 14, once you have, after the LH surge, and after the LH surge, you have a decrease in the LH hormone and FSH. Then you have the buildup, or you have an increased concentration of progesterone, and that occurs because of the corpus luteum. You also have an increase in estrogen.